Let's talk about the 6 weapons of influence. There's a famous book written by Robert Cialdini called Influence. And he went through and did quite a bit of studies, scientific studies, and pulled a lot of studies together on why people do anything. And he found basically 6 reasons that all advertising hits on. And you'll recognize these as we go through them. First one is reciprocity. And he gives quite a few examples in the book, one of which is Ethiopia. Back in the 80s when they had this huge famine in Ethiopia, and you saw these pictures of the starving kids, they sent millions of dollars in aid to Mexico. And it was because in 1935, Mexico had supported Ethiopia's quest for independence. So they felt obligated to give back to Mexico. So even though they're starving, this is 55 years later, 50, 60 years later, even though they're starving to death in their country, they're still sending aid to Mexico because of that feeling of reciprocity. Second one is commitment and consistency. Somebody, once they make a decision, is going to stick to it. And this is one that car salesmen hit on all the time, and I have had examples myself. I went to buy a van the other day that got wrapped, and the van was $4,000. We agreed on the price, we negotiated. It took me about 3 days to negotiate the price and get my price I wanted. We agreed on $4,000. I went to go give them the $4,000, and they said, oh, there's a dealer fee on top of this of $595. So they kind of tacked this fee on at the very end. You're like, well, we didn't talk about that before. But they know something. They know that once somebody makes a decision to do something, you're very unlikely to back out on it. What did I do? Well, I argued the price, but I still ended up paying it. I still bought the van because I'd already agreed to buy the van. So even though it's a total bait and switch, car dealers do all this time. Once people make a decision, they're much likely to stick to it. Now, in tax returns, it's the same thing. If they say no, it's very difficult to talk them into yes because they've committed to the idea of being no. If they say yes, it's the same way. They're not likely to at all to turn around and say no. The third point is social proofing. People want to do for some reason, they'll do what other people do. He gives an example in the book where he had somebody stand on the side of the road and look up in the sky. And suddenly everybody stopped and was looking up in the sky. In fact, cars were stopping. They stopped traffic. He had to stop the experiment because everybody stopped and was looking up in the sky for no reason. I had a very small store when I started. I had a store that was probably 400 square feet. It is not big at all. And by the time I got 4 tax preparers in there, and I got maybe 8 people doing taxes and a receptionist, people were always stepping over top of each other. So even though it wasn't very big, it looked busy. And people would always comment, your store is so busy. And it wasn't that we were doing that many tax returns than anybody else. It was just the fact that it was such a small space, it gave this real illusion of being super busy. So I like smaller spaces because of it. And that store has been phenomenal. We did, it was the 3rd highest return store in the nation last year. Authority. People respect authority. You see all the time on TV, I'm a doctor. And, that's the advertising pitch, that somebody with authority has said that. They give examples in this book of kind of the opposite side of things that are very kind of almost unethical. They would have they'd have a doctor say, this is a social experiment, and they have this person actually shock the person on the other side of the wall based on if they got the answer wrong. Well, it was an experiment that the person on the other side of the wall was actually an actor. Authority figure would say, you know what, yes, go ahead and shock him. He'd shock him, and this person would start screaming. And then they'd keep upping the dosage so this person was actually just acting like he was in dire pain. Now, this is an actor, so he wasn't actually being hurt, but this person that was responsible for flicking the switch and inflicting the pain, which was the actual subject, this person would put almost lethal levels of shocks into him because this person standing next to him said to do it. And he gives all kinds of examples of war atrocities that happened basically because they're told to do it. Liking. People will buy something from people they like. It's one of the key points, and that's why on TV or ads you always see attractive people, because psychologically they know if they like them, they're much more likely to buy from them. For tax preparers, this is absolutely huge. Hire tax preparers you like to be around. I don't care how good a tax preparer they are. You want to hire someone they actually like to be around. I'll give you an example. In my office, I had a tax preparer. His name was Kat, and she was phenomenal. Well, let me say, she's phenomenal at being a personal person. You can't sit at her desk and not have fun. I mean, you would laugh, you would enjoy yourself, the hour would just go fly by. She can't do a tax return to save her life, though. I mean, everything was done wrong, it seemed like. But I was amazed because these customers, we would have to call them up and say, you know what, I know we told you're getting a $2,000 refund. Turns out you kind of owe the IRS $5,000. And the most surprising thing would happen, the customer's like, oh, I don't care, I kind of figured I owed money anyways. And they'd be okay with it. At the same time, I had another tax preparer, his name was Brian. Brian was a CPA. The guy I never saw him do a tax return wrong ever. He did everything perfect. But he had no personality. and he would just sit there. And I got more complaints about Brian than any other tax preparer, even though he's the best one I ever had in terms of quality tax preparation. So the next year, guess who I could hire back? I almost couldn't hire back Brian, but I could hire back Kat because the customers love her. And in fact, the next year I opened up a new store. Just so Kat couldn't screw up too many tax returns, I put her in the new store, which I knew would be slower than the other store, which is about 20 minutes across town. And I can't tell you, I had this endless line of customers that would come in and ask where Kat was. And realize that in this store I had the best tax preparers. And so they'd come and ask where Kat was, find out she's at the store, and then drive 20 minutes to allow her to go screw up their tax return. Because they liked her. Liking is a huge thing. Make sure you hire tax preparers that you like. Finally, the sixth weapon of influence is called scarcity. And this is where, this is the whole, I don't remember, I actually stood in line for 4 hours for an iPhone one time. So iPhone, Apple's good at creating scarcity. You'll see like on orbits.com where you buy plane tickets, they'll say, hurry, only 2 tickets left at this price. Or if you go to amazon.com, you'll see on there, you know they have a warehouse full of hundreds of thousands of books, but they'll say only 3 books left. They're invoking this principle called scarcity. So again, this goes back to when I had a small store for a while there. It was tough to actually get a seat at a desk. And there was usually lines out the door, which is not great when it's 30 below zero because you're in Alaska. But I think because it was tough to get an appointment and tough to get in there, I think people were much more likely to come, and I did more tax returns because of it. Kind of counterintuitive, but scarcity is one of the major factors people use and determine in buying something. So those are the six weapons of influence. If you get a chance, pick up the book by Robert Cialdini. You can buy it on Amazon.com. It's called Influence. It's a phenomenal book. Great sales techniques come out of it. And all the principles in this presentation I just gave were all from Robert Cialdini's book. They're all hidden on different principles within that book.